Let's clear something up. The Silk Road wasn't a single road. Despite the name, you wouldn't have found a neatly paved highway stretching from China to Rome. There were no signposts, no toll booths, and definitely no rest stops with snacks. Instead, what we call the Silk Road was a sprawling, ever-shifting network of routes, paths, and trails that crisscrossed mountains, deserts, and entire civilizations. It was a tangled web of trails connecting China to Europe, more like the world's first global supply chain than a highway. Merchants, nomads, and adventurers all navigated this maze, braving sandstorms, bandits, and the unknown, driven by the promise of fortune and discovery. Instead of data packets, you had camels loaded with silk, spices, and sometimes a lost Roman. These caravans were the lifeblood of the route, carrying not just goods, but stories, secrets, and the occasional rumor that could change the fate of empires. For over 1,500 years, it moved not just goods, but ideas, religions, and even diseases. The Silk Road was a living, breathing organism, constantly evolving as new cities rose and old ones faded away. The Silk Road is why pasta exists in Italy, and Buddhism thrives in China. It's the reason you'll find Roman glass in ancient Chinese tombs, and Chinese silk in the ruins of forgotten European castles. It's proof that globalization isn't new. We've always craved exotic things and new connections. The desire to reach beyond our borders, to taste, see, and experience the unfamiliar, is as old as civilization itself. The world we know was shaped by these ancient roots, echoing in our food, faith, and even our DNA. Every meal, every festival, every family gathering carries a trace of those ancient exchanges. So when you hear Silk Road, think of it as the planet's first social network, risky, rewarding, and full of drama. It was a place where fortunes were made and lost, where cultures collided and blended, and where every journey was an adventure. And honestly, the stories were better than anything on reality TV. The Silk Road was the original stage for human drama, filled with intrigue, ambition, and the endless search for something new. The Silk Road began with a diplomatic disaster. In the Han Dynasty, Emperor Wu sent Zhang Qian west to find allies against the Xiongnu. Zhang was captured, escaped, recaptured, and finally returned after 13 years. Not with allies but with stories of new lands and crucially, amazing horses. These heavenly horses sparked China's obsession and opened the door to trade. The Chinese offered silk, their secret luxury, to get what they wanted. The West, especially Rome, went wild for silk, even though they had no clue how it was made. This mutual desire, horses for China, silk for the West, ignited the Silk Road. Soon, missions weren't just for alliances but for business. Silk became the iPhone of the ancient world, exclusive, coveted, and world-changing. All because one guy had the worst business trip ever. Sometimes failure is the start of something huge. Imagine unboxing a Silk Road caravan, each crate and bundle revealing treasures from distant lands. From China, there was silk so fine it was worth its weight in gold, delicate porcelain that dazzled the eyes, fragrant tea leaves, and the revolutionary invention of paper. Gunpowder, too, made its way west, changing the course of history. From the Roman Empire, traders brought shimmering glassware, gleaming gold coins, and beautifully crafted pottery, objects that told stories of distant cities and empires. India contributed its own wonders, aromatic spices that could transform any meal, and gemstones that sparkled with the colors of the rainbow, coveted by royalty and merchants alike. Spices like pepper and cinnamon weren't just for flavor, they were status symbols. To own them was to announce your wealth and worldliness, and they were often displayed at feasts to impress guests. Exotic animals, giraffes, lions, peacocks, traveled as diplomatic gifts, astonishing rulers and their courts. These living wonders were symbols of power and connections that stretched across continents. Even entertainers and acrobats made the journey, bringing music, dance, and laughter to faraway lands. The Silk Road wasn't just about goods, it was a two-way street for culture, ideas, and stories. Food traveled too. Grapes, walnuts, and pomegranates went east, introducing new flavors and farming techniques to distant regions. Oranges and peaches journeyed west, changing diets and orchards along the way. The Silk Road was a highway for taste as much as for trade. The real MVPs? Bactrian camels, ancient all-terrain vehicles perfectly adapted to the harsh deserts and high mountains. They hauled tons of goods, enduring heat, cold, and endless miles. Without these sturdy animals, the Silk Road would have collapsed. No other creature could handle the journey's extremes and keep the world connected. Every caravan was a moving mashup of luxury, necessity, and the downright bizarre. You could find rare perfumes, medicinal herbs, musical instruments, and even strange curiosities that sparked wonder and curiosity. Next time you see a camel, remember, it carried centuries of history on its back, connecting civilizations and shaping the world as we know it. The Silk Road was the world's first global marketplace. Imagine Amazon, but with more sand, more adventure, and a lot more mystery. And of course, a lot more spit, thanks to those hard-working camels. That's ancient logistics for you. A wild, unpredictable, and utterly fascinating journey across continents, powered by people, animals, and the promise of discovery. The Silk Road's greatest export wasn't silk or spices, it was ideas. Religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam traveled the route, transforming cultures along the way. Chinese paper and printing moved west, fueling revolutions in knowledge. Astronomy and science flowed east, helping China build better calendars. Musicians, artists, and dancers mixed styles, creating new art and music. The Silk Road was a centuries-long remix, connecting minds as much as markets. It was the world's first cultural superhighway. The Silk Road was more than just a trade route. It was a high-stakes game of control, ambition, and survival. Stretching thousands of miles across deserts, mountains, and empires, it connected the East and West in ways the world had never seen before. Whoever owned even a small stretch of this vast network owned the profits, the power, and the influence that came with it. Every oasis, fortress, and caravanserai became a strategic asset, fiercely contested by rulers and warlords alike. The Han Dynasty, determined to protect their lucrative silk trade, built massive walls and stationed garrisons along the route. Their soldiers guarded merchants from bandits and rival states, ensuring the flow of goods and information. Meanwhile, the Parthians in Persia grew wealthy as middlemen, taxing every caravan that passed through their lands. Their bustling bazaars became melting pots of languages, cultures, and ideas as traders from Rome, India, and China mingled under their watchful eyes. The Tang dynasty transformed Chang'an into the world's most international city, a dazzling metropolis where foreign diplomats, merchants, and scholars gathered. Here, the Silk Road's riches fueled art, science, and innovation. But control of the Silk Road was always up for grabs. Its crossroads were battlegrounds, and alliances shifted as quickly as the sands. Wars with Tibetans, Arabs, and countless others kept the routes in constant flux. Each new power tried to tip the balance in their favor. But the real game-changer arrived on horseback, the Mongols. Genghis Khan's empire thundered across the steppes, unifying the Silk Road under a single rule for the first time in history. Suddenly, merchants could travel farther and safer than ever before, protected by Mongol law and order. The Mongols' innovative postal system, the Yam, stretched across continents, allowing messages and goods to move at unprecedented speed. Their fierce protection of trade ushered in the Pax Mongolica, a rare era of stability and prosperity along the Silk Road. For a brief golden age, travelers like Marco Polo could journey from Italy to China, crossing vast distances and cultures, so long as they paid their taxes and respected local laws. Tax collectors and toll gates were everywhere, reminding everyone that profit came at a price. The Silk Road was never truly peaceful. Behind every fortune was a story of conflict, negotiation, and risk. Empires rose and fell, cities flourished and crumbled, but the lure of wealth kept the road alive. Through centuries of upheaval, the Silk Road adapted, shifting with the tides of history and the ambitions of those who sought to control it. In the end, the Silk Road was the original global power play, a network that shaped the destinies of nations and the course of civilization itself. Traveling the Silk Road was brutal, months or years across deserts like the Taklamakan, where you go in, you don't come out. Caravans followed trails of bones, braving boiling days, freezing nights, and relentless sand. Bandits and raiders lurked everywhere, turning every journey into a gamble. Merchants traveled in armed groups, but even that wasn't always enough. Cultural misunderstandings could spark conflict. Hand gestures meant different things, and language barriers were everywhere. Disease, getting lost, and stubborn camels added to the chaos. Most traders only did one leg, passing goods to middlemen in bustling oasis cities. The Silk Road was a dangerous relay race. Survival was never guaranteed, but the rewards? Sometimes worth the risk. So why did the Silk Road fade? The fall of the Mongols shattered its safety, and new sea routes made ocean trade faster and cheaper. Vasco da Gama's voyage around Africa changed everything. Why cross deserts when you could sail? The Black Death, spread along the Silk Road, devastated populations and trade. But the Silk Road's legacy lives on, in our religions, food and languages. Today, China's Belt and Road Initiative aims to revive that ancient spirit of connection. The camels may be gone, but the journey continues. The Silk Road taught us that connection is at the heart of human progress. And that's a road we're still traveling.